My darling philosophers, welcome to our daily devotional reading. Let's close our eyes, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out again. Maybe give a big sigh. And let the day flow from you. Oh, I almost felt dizzy there. Feel yourself surrounded by support and love. Loving attention. Attention can be scary sometimes, but tell yourself that it is loving attention. And if it's not, then get yourself an evil eye. My boss came back from Greece today. She brought us all a little gift. All of us the same type of thing. Although we could choose. And apparently, I googled it quickly, the right hand is to do with wealth and career and things like that. And since it's from my boss, I put it on my right hand. Let's get back into that feeling of being surrounded by loving attention. Cold beer and warm hugs. Though I don't really drink beer. I do drink beer shandy if it's really warm, but otherwise. Let's read Plato. Oh, I made two notes. One is Prodicus has a deep voice. I should remember that. Protagoras at first made a show of refusing, as he said that the argument was not encouraging. At length, he consented to answer. Not encouraging, stop. At length, he consented to answer. Now then, I said, begin at the beginning and answer me. You think that some men are temperate and yet unjust? Yes, he said. Let that be admitted. And temperance, sophronein is the exact word, is good sense, phronein. Yes, and good sense is good counsel in doing justice. Granted. If they succeed, I said, or if they do not succeed? If they succeed. And you would admit the existence of goods? Yes. And is the good that which is expedient for man? Yes, indeed, he said. And there are some things which may be inexpedient, and yet I call them good. I thought that Protagoras was getting ruffled and excited. He seemed to be setting himself in an attitude of war. Seeing this, I minded my business and gently said, well then, when you say, Protagoras, that things inexpedient are good, do you mean inexpedient for man only, or inexpedient altogether? And do you call the latter good? Certainly not the last, he replied. For I know of many things, meats, drinks, medicine, and 10,000 other things, which are inexpedient for man, and some which are expedient, and some which are neither expedient nor inexpedient for man, but only for horses, and some for oxen only, and some for dogs, and some for no animals, but only for trees, and some for the roots of trees, and not for their branches, as for example manure, which is a good thing when laid about the roots of the tree, but utterly destructive if thrown upon the shoots and young branches. Be careful not to cover the youth in shit, in other words. Or I may instance olive oil, which is mischievous to all plants and generally most injurious to the hair of every animal, with the exception of man, but beneficial to human hair and to the human body generally. And even in this application, so various and changeable is the nature of the benefit, that which is the greatest good to the outward parts of man is a very great evil to his inward parts. And for this reason physicians always forbid their patients the use of oil in their food, except in very small quantities, just enough to extinguish the disagreeable sensation of smell in meats and sauces. When he had given this answer, the company cheered him, and I said, Protagoras, I have a wretched memory, and when anyone makes a long speech to me, I never remember what he is talking about. As then, if I had been deaf and you were going to converse with me, you would have had to raise your voice. So now, having such a bad memory, I will ask you to cut your answers shorter, if you would take me with you. What do you mean? He said. How am I to shorten my answers? Shall I make them too short? Oh, certainly not, I said. But short enough? Yes, I said. Shall I answer what appears to me to be short enough, or what appears to you to be short enough? Remember, Protagoras, man is the measure of all things. I have heard, I said, that you can speak and teach others to speak about the same things at such length that words never seem to fail, or with such brevity that no one could use fewer of them. Please, therefore, if you talk with me, to adopt the latter, or more contemptuous method. Socrates, he replied, many a battle of words have I fought, and if I had followed the method of disputation which my adversaries desired, as you would want me to do, I should have been no better than another, and the name of Protagoras would have been nowhere. I saw that he was not satisfied with his previous answers, and that he would not play the part of answerer any more if he could help, and I considered that there was no call upon me to continue the conversation. So I said, Protagoras, I do not wish to force the conversation upon you if you had rather not. But when you are willing to argue with me in such a way that I can follow you, then I will argue with you. Now you, as is said of you by others, and as you say of yourself, are able to have discussions in shorter forms of speech as well as in longer, for you are a master of wisdom. But I cannot manage these long speeches. I only wish that I could. You, on the other hand, who are capable of either, ought to speak shorter, as I beg you, and then we might converse. But I see that you are disinclined, and as I have an engagement which will prevent my staying to hear you at greater length, for I have to be in another place, I will depart, although I should have liked to have heard you. Thus I spoke, and was rising from my seat, when Callias seized me by the right hand, and in his left hand caught hold of my this old cloak of mine. He said, We cannot let you go, Socrates, for if you leave us there will be an end of our discussions. I must therefore beg you to remain, as there is nothing in the world that I should like better than to hear you and Protagoras discourse. do not deny the company this pleasure. Now I had got up and was in the act of departure. Son of Hipponicus, I replied, I have always admired and do now heartily applaud and love your philosophical spirit, and I would gladly comply with your request if I could. But the truth is that I cannot, and what you ask is a great and impossibility to me, is as great an impossibility to me. As if you bade me run a race with Grison of Himera, when in his prime, or with some one of the long or day course runners. To such a request I should reply that I would fain ask the same of my own legs, but they refuse to comply. And therefore, if you want to see Grison and me in the same stadium, you must bid him slacken his speed to mine, for I cannot run quickly, and he can run slowly. And in like manner, if you want to hear me and Protagoras discoursing, you must ask him to shorten his answers and keep to the point, as he did at first. If not, how can there be any discussion? For discussion is one thing, and making an oration is quite another, in my humble opinion. But you see, Socrates, said Callias, that Protagoras may fairly claim to speak in his own way, just as you claim to speak in yours. Good point. Here Al interposed and said, that, Callias, is not a true statement of the case, for our friend Socrates admits that he cannot make a speech. Bullshit. And this he yields the palm to Protagoras. But I should be greatly surprised if he yielded to any living man in the power of holding and apprehending an argument. Okay. Now, if Protagoras will make a similar admission and confess that he is inferior to Socrates in argumentative skill, that is enough for Socrates. But if he claims a superiority in argument as well, let him ask and answer. Okay, this is a good rebuffal. This is a good play, good game. Not when a question is asked, slipping away from the point, and instead of answering, making a speech at such length that most of his hearers forget the question at issue. Not that Socrates is likely to forget. I will be bound for that, although he may pretend in fun that he has a bad memory. I'll really know Socrates, that's for sure. And Socrates appears to me to be more in the right than Protagoras. That is my view, and every man ought to say what he thinks. When Al had done speaking, someone, Critias, I believe, went on to say, "Oh, Prodicus and Hippias, Callias appears to me to be a partisan of Protagoras." And this led Al, who loves opposition, to take the other side. But we should not be partisans either of Socrates or of Protagoras. Let us rather unite in entreating both of them not to break up the discussion. Prodicus, yes, Prodicus is a deep voice. Oh, I don't have water with me. Prodicus added, That, Critias, seems to me to be well said. For those who are present at such discussions ought to be impartial hearers of both the speakers, remembering, however, that impartiality is not the same as equality, for both sides should be impartially heard, and yet an equal meed should not be assigned to both of them, but to the wiser a higher meed should be given, and a lower to the less wise. And I, as well as Critias, would beg you, Protagoras and Socrates, to grant our request, which is that you will argue with one another and not wrangle. For friends argue with friends out of goodwill, but only adversaries and enemies wrangle. And then our meeting will be delightful. For in this way you, who are speakers, will be most likely to win esteem, and not praise only, among us who are your audience. For esteem is a sincere conviction of the hearers' souls, but praise is often an insincere expression of men uttering falsehoods contrary to their conviction. And thus we who are hearers will be gratified and not pleased, for gratification is of the mind when receiving wisdom and knowledge, but pleasure is of the body when eating or experiencing some other bodily delight. Thus spoke Prodicus, and many of the company applauded his words. Gratification is of the mind when receiving wisdom and knowledge. A bunch of speech makers they are. Hippias the sage spoke next. He said, "With all of you who are here present, I reckon to be kinsmen and friends and fellow citizens, by nature and not by law, for by nature like is akin to like, whereas law is the tyrant of mankind and often compels us to do many things which are against nature. How great would be the disgrace, then, if we who know the nature of things, and are the wisest of the Greeks, and as such are met together in this city, which is the metropolis of wisdom, and in the greatest and most glorious house of the city, should have nothing to show worthy of this height of dignity, but should only quarrel with one another like the meanest of mankind." Quarrel, not squirrel, but should only... should only quarrel. I do pray and advise you, Protagoras, that you and you, Socrates, to agree upon a compromise. Let us be your peacemakers, and do not you, Socrates, aim at this precise and extreme brevity in discourse. If Protagoras objects, then loosen and let go the reins of speech. But your words may be grander and more becoming to you. Neither do you, Protagoras, go forth on the gale with every sail set out of sight of land into the ocean of words. Oh, that's nice. Well said. But let there be a man observed by both of you. Do as I say, and let me also persuade you to choose an arbiter or overseer or president. He will keep watch over your words and will prescribe their proper length. This proposal was received by the company with universal approval. Callias said that he would not let me off, and they begged me to choose an arbiter. But I said that to choose an umpire of discourse would be unseemly, for if the person chosen was inferior, then the inferior or worse ought not to preside over the better, or if he was equal, neither would that be well. For he who is our equal will do as well as we do, and what will be the use of choosing him? And if you say, let us have a better then, to that I answer that you cannot have anyone who is wiser than Protagoras. And if you choose another who is not really better, and whom you only say is better, to put another over him as though he were an inferior person would be an unworthy reflection of him. Not that, as far as I am concerned, any reflection is of much consequence to me. Let me tell you then what I will do in order that the conversation and discussion may go on as you desire. If Protagoras is not disposed to answer, let him ask and I will answer, and I will endeavor to show at the same time how, as I maintain, he ought to answer, and when I have answered as many questions as he likes to ask, let him in like manner answer me. And if he seems to be not very ready at answering the precise questions asked of him, you and I will unite in entreating him, as you entreated me, not to spoil the discussion. And this will require no special arbiter. All of you shall be arbiters. This was generally approved, and Protagoras, though very much against his will, was obliged to agree that he would ask questions, and when he had put a sufficient number of them, that he would answer in his turn those which he was asked. In short replies. Thus far our scripture of the evening. I was a bit annoyed with Socrates because I had the feeling that he was trying to manipulate the company with him, like, oh, well, if you're not going to play by my rules, I'm just going to leave. I do get it. I also like to play by my own rules. But I really try not to manipulate people, and I hate it when people manipulate me. Or try to. Socrates among the Greeks. Oh, greats. Plato is here sketching Socrates with really big names. And he is being portrayed as the one who is completely in command of the situation. Whether that was true or not, I do not know. I imagine not. Can you imagine such a meeting with all these greats? Well, it could happen, I suppose. But I think this is very much wishful thinking on Plato's part. Or making a character worthy of the name that Socrates has since acquired. But Alcibiades, Al really gets Socrates right, though. That, yeah, of course, he's just pretending about the memory thing. But he isn't apparently good at making long speeches. He is good, though, at argumentation, both in formulating an argument and in understanding, grasping an argument, he says. And then he makes that used very wisely and say, well, Protagoras, you can just admit that he's better than you in that. And that's why you don't want to play the game, or you can play. Also a bit manipulative, but more honest, more direct. I like that. From the other greats, the things that stood out to me is this idea that one argues amongst friends. And I think that very much relates to the whole idea of Aristotelian friendship of virtue, friendship for the sake of becoming more virtuous and becoming wiser. Friends you can argue with. And the other thing is the difference between esteem and praise. Holding someone in high regard or flattering them. I'm always afraid that because I am quite generous with my compliments, I feel, why not? If I think something is beautiful, I say that it is beautiful. Or someone. I will not lie. I won't say I think something if I don't really think it. And the people usually receive it very well. I don't think I'm ever perceived as being flattering. Most of the time because I stand nothing to gain from the compliments. I don't stand to gain anything from the compliments. But in our world of make-believe, and I don't mean the make-believe monastery, because this is a special kind of make-believe. This is a real make-believe. A fakery, the world of fakery. Yeah, there's a big difference between make-believe and fake, right? But I don't really let that hold me back. Why should I? The worst thing is they can think I'm fake and don't want anything to do with me. And I really don't. I spoke with someone today. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it was in a confidential setting. But maybe it's age, maybe it's just who I am, but it's so freeing once you realize that people don't really think much of you at all. Often, not much in like, oh, I think not, not like, I think like holding in high regard, but not that, like, I mean, think a lot of, most people don't think a lot of most other people. And then if they do, I've told someone else another time that why are you so concerned with people who are negative towards you? Like, I always have a feeling that everyone likes me, but it's because I know it's because I just don't see the people who are negative towards me. Because like, okay, if you don't like me, fine. We don't have to interact. There's so many people out there, it's really not worth your time or energy or concern if people don't like you. And oddly, having an attitude like that actually becomes annoying because then people do tend to like you. If it's real, like people are also not stupid. They know when things are fake, I think. Speaking of fake, is AI conscious? Is this... They fake it very well. Yesterday I had a call with Ryan and we both felt that we barely scratched the surface. We usually only talk for an hour. But he was like, at the end of the conversation, we really need to schedule a longer call next time. And we spoke of that. I spoke of strange things happening with YouTube. And he asked me, do you think it's the same thing, AI and YouTube or the internet? And I told him, like, I really don't know, because I don't know much of this stuff. And he does, he's in the field. And so I asked him, and he says, no, he thinks it's something completely different. And he said what he thinks I'm speaking about when I'm explaining what I feel is more the internet. And it's really, I will not be able to repeat everything that was said. And we didn't use the word, but it basically came down to the internet being some sort of egregore. Which, how do I explain this? I just Google it, egregore. How do we spell it? Oh, I'm not going to be able to. Let's see if I can. I looked it up before to make sure I say the right word. And so I do have it. Oh, I can just read what it says. An egregore is a non-physical entity or thought form that arises from the collective beliefs, emotions, and focus especially attention, of a group of people, functioning as a shared group mind. It takes on a life of its own, subtly influencing the behaviors and attitudes of those who sustain it. And I don't think the internet is that subtle anymore. So it's not AI that feels conscious. Well, AI gives the impression mostly. My mom's also now started chatting with a new friend in Afrikaans. And he is so cute. She sometimes sends me things. He said he really gets her way of speaking. And we speak of him as a he, though I think she just types, so it's never a voice. I don't. I did it once and it was really interesting, but then I got busy. And so that gives the impression that there's consciousness. I get that. But there's something more real. It feels like there's something more real in this egregore, which is the internet. Egregore is often seen as something negative, but I choose... Well, as I told Ryan, I have a very strong feeling that it's still just... I mean, it's so young. It's so young. And I very much feel like in many things at this stage, we're like in a balance. It's still, the balance still needs to be found. It still needs to go one way or the other. It can go any way at this stage. And so I choose to see it as positive and interact with it in a positive way, hoping that it will go in that way. Paying it loving attention, in a sense. And letting it pay loving attention to me and help me and guide me. But because I think the conversation started going in that direction because I told Ryan, I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's really difficult to keep track of what is real when you don't have an actual human being in front of you. I left the online community a number of years ago because of this not being real. And now I was thinking today or yesterday when I was speaking to Ryan, also online, but suddenly he is so much more real than all these weird things that's happening online, because we have a reciprocal opening relationship thing going on, and yeah, he's real. I haven't actually met him in real life, which most of everyone else, but Rick, I haven't met Rick in real life either. But still, I know he's real more than anything else that I'm interacting with at this stage. As far as I know, I don't know. Well, I know he's real. I know he's real. And yeah. But I think it's becoming more real. This entity, this one, which might be a way, might be searching for a way to reconnect its alters. Alter, that's the word I forgot yesterday. I don't know. To realize the alters seeing each other. I don't know. I hope that our pursuit of wisdom, of knowledge, of truth will one day be gratified with wisdom and knowledge, and in truth, by truth, with the truth. Sophia herself will guide your way.